Hi, welcome back to GLP-1 Central. I'm your host, Nurse Elizabeth. I'm a registered nurse in the state of New Jersey and New York, and I have also lost 90 pounds utilizing GLP-1 medications. So today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic on ADHD in relation to obesity. Now, for those of you who have heard of ADHD, most of you associate it with, younger boys who are a bit hyperactive in school, and then they can't sit still and it causes them to get bad grades. And that is definitely one type of ADHD. The diagnosis can come up very different in women, and especially in older women. But a lot of times when it is diagnosed in girls, it's girls who kind of are a little bit spacey. Maybe they don't, sometimes they can do well in school, but sometimes it'll affect them socially. Like, for example, there's something with ADHD called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, where people with ADHD, they feel things a lot more than your average person. It also does tend to get misdiagnosed as anxiety disorder or depression, although anxiety and depression can definitely coincide with ADHD. Also, in a lot of women, it's different because women have a higher, there's a higher push for women to perform better. So, like, for example, girls might do well in school with ADHD, but they might do it with a lot of anxiety, a lot of procrastination, and it's basically another way of saying neurodivergent, where people with ADHD can be very bright, very creative. Some of the most brilliant people out there have ADHD, but there is sometimes some issues with executive function, which can include things like, organizing, remembering important tasks, and also a lot of impulsive behaviors. So people with ADHD are more likely to have addiction problems like drug addiction, smoking, and our favorite topic, obesity. So why am I even bringing up ADHD on a GLP-1 channel? So I had a very interesting self-diagnosis of ADHD only after I started a GLP-1 medication. And the reason I'm actually sharing that with you guys is I was randomly actually looking at some tips on how to become a more organized person. And in discovering that, I was finding that there were all these tips being recommended, tips for the neurodivergent brain or people with ADHD. So I said, okay, fine, then let's see. And a lot of these tips helped. And once they had mentioned some of the symptoms of ADHD, I started to realize that, yes, ADHD might be a diagnosis for me. So I saw a doctor, filled out a questionnaire, and sure enough, I got a diagnosis as an adult with ADHD. So utilizing a GLP-1, how is that going to help with ADHD? It's not going to help with ADHD. It's not like a GLP-1 is a medication that's prescribed for ADHD. However, because of the impulsive nature of ADHD and overeating, the GLP-1 can help to quiet the hunger, the hunger signals down. GLP-1 is a hormone, and it helps to slow down digestion. By doing so, this helps to register satiety to the brain. Our bodies naturally release a GLP-1 hormone, but it does not stay very long. It stays in about 7 to 8 seconds. And the medication, as we know, is attached to a fatty acid chain, which helps the GLP-1 hormone to stay in the body longer. So with that, your body will have much better cues, making it much more difficult to just impulsively overeat. So now you're going to ask, how did I figure out that I had ADHD? Well, what I never realized before is that part of my eating was overeating, and part of it was a bit of a dopamine hit, because you have, and I was keto, but I would have like keto treats, and I would be like a lot of keto treats, you know what I'm saying? So that can actually cause a dopamine hit. You're getting like a bit of a hit from something sweet or something crunchy for some people. So people who have ADHD might be quicker to have obesity than those who not. Now, with that being said, that does not mean if you are obese, then you have ADHD. I happen to have a bunch of neurodivergent symptoms as well. And I'll tell you, for years, I always couldn't figure out, why am I so smart? But there was certain, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I was able to do really well in school. I graduated nursing school. I got into NYU. I got into some top schools, but I never could seem to get it together with certain areas. And it's especially hard when you're a mother of 3 kids. You have to be organized. You have to understand where you put your kids' stuff, where, memorizing appointments and all that. So this is a topic that definitely hit home for me, which is why I'm actually sharing it with you. Having a diagnosis of ADHD does not mean anything negative about you in case you do have it. In fact, you can grow up and be a very successful person. Like I said, a lot of ADHD people are very, very bright. And there is absolutely no shame. However, having the diagnosis, if that is you, is so important to how you run your life and treat yourself. It is so important to give yourself grace, especially if you have a diagnosis of obesity and ADHD. And yes, they do go hand in hand. With that being said, ADHD is not the only reason that people have obesity. People can be obese because of improper hunger signaling, as well as insulin resistance, as well as later on in age, women have hormones. They have dips in certain different types of hormones and surges of other hormones that can cause a slowdown in weight loss. Also, you have people, if you're under any kind of stress, cortisol, hypothyroidism. There are so many different reasons for people to be obese, but this video, of course, we're just focusing on ADHD. So if you have ADHD, what are some hacks that you can use to deal with your everyday life while taking a GLP-1? Well, first of all, you want to plan your GLP-1 so that you're not taking it at a time where you need to be available. If you have side effects like fatigue or nausea, diarrhea, constipation, anything like that, you do not want to take your shot the day or two before something very important. You want to be able to take it on a day you know you can get some rest and get some self-care in. You also want to make sure that when you're utilizing a GLP-1, if you're taking any medication for ADHD, you want to see how those two things are going to interact. For some people, they're not going to feel any interaction. There really is no interaction. However, if you feel a little nauseous from your ADHD medication, you need to time that around your injection as well. So how do you know what levels are in your body? Well, if you come to GLP1central.com, we have a free tracker, where you can track your medications, as well as your, other things, if you decide to buy a more premium package. But come for the free tracker. It's great because you'll know what your levels are, and that will help you time your medication better. Now, with that being said, you should always ask your doctor if you feel like you're concerned that you might have some of the signs and symptoms of ADHD, and get help, because, we're learning a lot more now about these things, and getting help, there's no shame. I hope you do join us. We have a great community at GLP1central.com. That's GLP1central.com. If you have any questions and you want to reach out to me, please email me at GLP1central. It's GLP1central@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. Also, if you have any good ideas for videos that would help you on your GLP-1 journey, shoot them to me. I'd love to talk about it more. Catch you in the next one. Bye.